Is Carl getting it started there?
Good afternoon. Welcome to the May 18th Valley View School Board meeting. Vice President Zach, could I ask everybody to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If you'll lead us in the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States of America, and to the republic
One
for
nation,
which is state,
under God,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Thank you. And since you're sitting there, why don't you give us the mission statement as well?
Our mission is to empower all learners and to be college and career and life ready, and to develop and grow and achieve as productive citizens.
Thank you. Ms. Kinder, agenda.
Yes, President Quigley, I'd like to ask that you approve the agenda as presented.
Motion?
I would like, I don't know if I do it right now, but I would like to make a motion. Can I do that right at the moment? I would like to make a motion to remove something from the agenda and have it moved. I would like to make a motion to remove the core content administrator position from 10.1 from the consolidated action report to become 10.3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor will vote aye.
Aye.
Shelley, take the roll, please.
Aye.
Okay. I heard aye from Member Badouris and Member Gilbo. Member Campbell? Or, I'm sorry, Member Perro?
Yes.
No.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
No.
President Quigley?
No. What's the count? 4-3? Four voting yes, 3 voting no. The motion carries. The
Okay.
agenda shall be amended.
And then I have one more. I'd like to make a motion to remove the intervention and enrichment coordinator job description from 10.2 and be moved to 10.4.
Is there a motion? Is there a
That's
second?
my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Member Perro?
No.
Member Buduris,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
and Zach,
No.
President Quigley.
No, 4-3, the agenda is so amended.
Thank you.
Now we've amended the agenda as
Okay.
amended. Roll call vote on the agenda, please. Oh, I need a motion for the agenda as amended.
So move.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. The ayes have it. Where are we at? Treasurer's report, Mr. Gazafi. Oh, before we go, I have to step off for a work call. I'm turning the meeting over to Member Zach. I will be back as soon as my call is over. It shouldn't take very long. Thank you.
Mr. Grisafi, the treasurer's report?
Legal counsel, can we do that without making a,
Yes, yeah, that was just being brought up, Member Campbell.
need a
There
motion.
needs to be a motion for Mr. Zach to be pro tem in charge while Mr. Quigley steps out.
I move that President or Vice President Zach step in as President Pro Tem while President Quigley has stepped out of the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes? Okay, Mr. Grisafi, the treasurer's report.
Treasurer's Action Report 5.1 is the monthly report for April, includes the financial reports, balance sheet, summary of revenue and expenditures, as well as the interim obligation payments, along with the debt service payment for the month of April totaling $4,567,891.89 for your action.
So moved.
second?
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote?
Wait. Can you, hold on one second. Can you repeat which part we're on?
5.1.
Okay,
5.1.
got it. Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Peril,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
No.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
and President Quigley is not back. I'm making it right.
Treasurer's Action Report 5.2 is the schedule of bills for the month of May. There are 6 funds representing $2,018,903.91. Just for reference, we pulled last month's bill, a bill list, schedule of bills. Last month was 4.4 million. So this month is just a hair over 2 million. So you can see the difference in the expenditures that are being asked to be approved. Considerable difference month to month, obviously due to our shutdown. We would anticipate that that would continue as long as we remain closed, but just thought it would be worth mentioning. So I am recommending the bill list to be approved as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Peril,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Buduris,
No.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
Treasurer's Information Report, Summary of Investments 5.3, the State Funding Update 5.4, and All Schools Trust Account Activity 5.5 are presented for information only. Just want to make a quick mention on the state funding update. We did receive the $2.4 million that was the longest outstanding amount owed to us by the state. We received that a couple days into May, so it wasn't reflected as this was as of April 30th, but I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. We're seeking your approval on consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.6. 6.1, approval of board meeting minutes, April 20th, 2020. 6.2, executive session meeting minutes, April 20th, 2020. 6.3, gifts for Bolingbrook High School, John R. Tibbet Elementary School, Romeoville High School, and STEP Campus. 6.4, district cleaning service contract ratification. 6.5, intergovernmental agreement extension with New Lenox School District 122. And 6.6, extension of related services contract with Easter Seals, Joliet Region.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussions? Can we have a roll call vote,
Do you
please?
have questions?
Questions or discussions?
Yeah, I do. I didn't know if somebody else did. I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay, go ahead.
For 6.4, district cleaning services contract ratification, were there any alterations made to the contract, because we possibly may not be in the buildings for a while? And did we do anything with the company that we're hiring now to say maybe there could be some breaks if we're not there? Or the days that we're not there and cleaning is not being done, that there will be discounts, anything to that nature?
Certainly, I think we would have the ability to renegotiate the contract if we get to that point in time. Right now, we do have them working in the building, preparing the building for attendance in the fall. You know, it's pretty hard to ask them to sit on the sidelines and wait for, you know, the phone to ring. Folks just aren't going to do that. And so I think we're going to have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, is this a contract stating what we would owe and what we're paying and for what services?
Correct.
So could that be negotiated in the contract before we approve this? Say, if this comes up, what will happen? That way we're not held to this contract ahead of time, and say it's not in the contract, then there's nothing we can do about it?
Yeah, I believe there is a provision in there that says if we are not in attendance, we would obviously not be obligated to have those folks working and being paid. I think that's part of the basic contract. That wasn't, what this is a certification of what was approved back in May. We just made some contractual changes via the attorneys between both sides. But what you're asking was a basic clause that was included in the base contract that was brought to you back in May.
Okay, and so there are provisions in this contract now, if there are no students in attendance and we're doing or are learning, whichever we're gonna call it, that we will not have to pay for these services of people in the buildings cleaning when the services are not rendered. That's what you're telling me, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I have another question, unless anybody else has one on that one.
Member Gilbo, I do want to add, though, that it is critical from a public health standpoint that we have this workforce secured and available, because we need to ensure that we have the regular cleaning and also cleaning of high-touch surfaces. And although we may have interruptions to learning or go on to periods of remote learning, we are unable to predict that. So this to me is something that is critical to have secure and in place.
I understand that, and I want to make sure that the company that we're hiring understands that as well, that there should be provisions within reason, where if there are long periods of time where we don't need that service, that maybe we shouldn't be paying for a service that we don't get. So I'm going to go to 6.5 as well. This is intergovernmental agreement extension with New Lenox School District. And this, I believe, is for visual impairments mainly. And I was just wondering, are they giving us services now? And again, same questions. And these all stem with the COVID-19 and where we're at. Are we in session? Are we not in session? So, and I know that there are laws that say that we need to take care of our special populations, which I want to do that, but I just don't know what these companies are providing for us now while we are in those special circumstances. So this New Lenox School District for these visually impaired students, are we providing, or are they providing services for us, and will they do it for the summer? What's the situation with that one?
So for the orientation and mobility specialist, that is a position, essentially we're sharing services with another school district because we don't have enough students with visual impairments to warrant having a full-time person on staff. Rather, we have a smaller number. So I would say we have about 4 students in district that require the special education service per their individualized education plan. And so this individual, the orientation and mobility specialist, provides support for these students in accordance with their IEPs. And there is also a shortage of these types of specialists in our area. And so because of that and the fact that we have low numbers, we essentially are accessing services from the New Lenox School District. And so it's actually a very cost-effective way to provide these supports for our students who have blindness or visual impairment.
So what services are they providing for us during the stay-at-home order?
Well, I do not have the student IEPs in front of me, but I would say that they are probably consulting with families and or providing any support with the that the students need in terms of their accessibility for learning. But that's all in accordance with the student IEP. They're not working full-time for us. They provide them the amount of minutes and supports that the students need with their IEP. If any of those students are in the extended school year program, then they would get those supports in the summer. And if not, they would resume those services when the school year resumes, whether it's remote or on-site.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if our students are getting those services now.
They are. All of our students who have IEPs, our staff worked very diligently to go through student IEPs and prioritize the goals that would be focused on, the services that could be prioritized, because not all services can be provided to all students in the remote format and the amount of minutes. Our providers wouldn't be able to do that remotely. So there was a remote learning plan individualized for each of those students. And then those service providers, whether it be speech or any other service, would meet with the students either online, access the families via phone or other technology to provide them services.
That's pretty hands-on with the visual, so I was just wondering if they were able to provide services.
I can't speak specifically to that, but I can certainly ask the specialists for more information on how they would provide that. But I know there is a lot of technology that does support our students to ensure that they can access, and the specialists certainly have that expertise.
I know we do, but I
But
just
for
want to know if these
but for
outside services.
individuals with vision impairments as well, we still have to provide accessibility for online access too. So even from home, it just looks differently for students who are differently abled.
Could we check in to just see what they are doing for these kids?
Sure.
Okay.
I have some more, sorry. Vic.
You have more questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For 6.6, extension of related service contract with Easter Seals. So my question is the same for Easter Seals. Are our students actually getting these services while we are in the stay-at-home order? And I would imagine the answer is going to be very similar. So well, you have heard, Ms. Kinder, if you have heard, they are actually providing these services while we are not in
So you
the
are
building.
correct that many of these related services it's very challenging to provide these remotely. And our specialists, our related service providers would be the first to tell you that it is a challenge, and our families and students would be able to tell you that as well. I can't speak specifically to their delivery of services, but I can speak to, the legal requirement that we provide these services. And in this case, you're speaking to occupational and physical therapy. And then I can tell you that we have made modifications due to the mode of service delivery. So it could be that they are providing skills for the students to work on and strategies for the students to use, and then they're observing them remotely, for example. Or with a parent's assistance, they are working on developing specific motor skills, and they have the expertise to be able to adapt those activities or skills or tools that they're using remotely. So they are delivering service. It just looks differently because they are not in face-to-face contact. Our service providers, of course, have been doing everything possible to adapt. It's less than ideal to be doing this in a remote setting, and they will continue to give us feedback and work together with our families so that we can provide these legally required services and very necessary services to try to keep our students' development and skill growth moving, even though they're not with us.
Yeah, I understand they're very necessary, and that's why I want to see if they're actually being taken care of for these students. And I know it's very hands-on in these categories, so I was just wondering what they were doing and what they were able to do. I know in the contract for this one, it says, we are not billed for days not in session, excluding snow days or any other non-scheduled closings. So I know the COVID-19 stay-at-home are non-scheduled closings. So are we paying them? Are they giving us service? Could we work this into the contract where even though it's a non-scheduled closing, that they would still be providing these services if at all possible? And I'm not seeing that in this contract.
I'm sorry, that is how we're operating now for all of our contracted services, with the priority of giving the students the supports that we've, identified that the team has identified as priorities for that students. And there is still service delivery occurring, and we are paying accordingly, in accordance with the contract.
So according to this contract, they're not doing anything while schools are closed, correct?
Please keep in mind that remote learning doesn't mean schools are closed. They're still considered student attendance days, and we're still providing services and supports to students as if we were in session. It's just modified due to the nature of the delivery.
Could we maybe put that in writing, because it could be maybe possibly misconstrued, because it says or any other non-scheduled closings? So what does that specifically mean? Maybe we can put that in the contract, that this special circumstance, that it, just in case, because we don't know for sure. It doesn't sound like we know for sure if they are getting these services right now, these students, right?
I can't give you any general statement because each student has an individualized education plan that's been revisited for the remote circumstances. So I can tell you there are students in the district who are receiving OT and PT minutes. There are students in the district who are receiving speech minutes. Their services have been decided by the team of what they would prioritize to see what is actually best for the child and what does the family feel is of a priority and the team feels is a priority, and then also what is achievable. Dependent on the student's needs, it's not ideal, and for many students it's not, to have them in front of a computer for extended amounts of time. So that's taken into consideration as well. So if one service for a child was deemed more important by the team and by the family, that was prioritized for their service delivery. But all of our students with IEPs are being delivered services in accordance with that plan that was developed with the team and the families, and that looks different for every child based on the child's needs. And so the individuals that are contracted to provide services are then delivering those servants in accordance with what has been identified. So it's difficult for me to answer your questions in a general sense, because again, it's very individualized based on each child.
Okay, one other thing I read there, it said hours can be increased at any time. But it doesn't say anything about if the hours have to be decreased at any time. And I know we pay them hourly, big chunks of money. So do we have to pay a minimum if they don't provide that to the students that do need that depending on the need. And could we get put into the contract as well, that if hours need to be decreased, then the pay would be accordingly?
They bill for documented hours and we pay accordingly.
But there's a minimum. Am I right?
Where are you saying there's a minimum?
I'm just saying that it says hours can be increased at any time, but it doesn't say that they could be decreased. So I'm interpreting that as there is a minimum and you can go above if it's agreed upon mutually. So I'm asking if in this contract, if it can go the other way too, can it be agreed upon mutually if the services are not needed, that we would not pay for services that are not rendered?
That is accurate. That is accurate.
It states in there that the district does not guarantee a particular number of hours.
What does that mean, Gary?
Does not guarantee a particular number of hours. I would imagine the hours are governed by the student's IEP.
So if they don't get services rendered, then we don't pay. That's how you're interpreting that?
That's correct.
That's correct.
It says the contractor will provide documentation for billing will be furnished reflecting services delivered.
Okay. If that's not the case, can we keep an eye on that? But thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Badouris,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
and President Pro Tem Zach.
Yes. Steve's here.
I've returned.
Oh, President
Sorry about
President
that.
Quigley.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see you get back in there.
Yep, sorry about that. We're on
Can he vote
Item
if he
7
hasn't been?
Right.
audience
Come back in.
participation. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address?
Wait. we need to
No,
speak
right,
back.
no. Hold up, back up.
Legal, does Steve's vote right now, is that valid since he was not in the meeting at that time?
Yes, it's
Or he
fine.
wasn't?
It's fine, it's fine. He was here, present. He listened to some of the stuff, so.
So,
Okay,
And the motion
I-
the motion for the pro tem was while he was gone from the meeting, so.
Right, okay. I move that President Steve Quigley continue back with running the meeting, whatever.
So move.
Deb, you would second it?
Yes. Yeah, Deb is a second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Thank you.
Aye.
Item 7. Audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address the board this evening, this afternoon?
I have a question about this. Is there somebody there?
Yeah, there's people here, but nobody wants to address the board.
Okay, because I had, community member ask, if they can come there to participate or not, and I didn't know what to tell them, if they're allowed to be there. They are allowed to be there in that auditorium.
That is
Yes.
correct, as long as the numbers are below the required maximum.
And what is the required minimum or maximum?
A gathering of 10 people or more.
And how many do we have there now?
I don't know. 5 plus staff.
And
So
that's
if somebody was to
including
come,
you
if we
guys?
had more than the requisite number, we would have people stand socially distancing out in the hallway. And when one person would ask a question, we'd ask them to leave, and so the next person could come in and ask their question.
Okay, sounds good.
All
And
right.
then the other thing is that they asked that we not have the meeting so early because they're working too, and that they
Oh.
would rather have it at the normal time, just so everybody knows that, okay?
All right, seeing none, moving on down the agenda. Action item 8.
Yes, action item, or action report 8.1 is seeking the approval on board policies as part of our regular process of review. These changes reflect the Illinois Association of School Board Press Policy Service recommendations due to changes in various state and federal laws. The policies have also been reviewed by our legal counsel. School Board, Policy 2210, Organizational School Board Meeting. This policy was reviewed with no changes. Under Operational Services, Policy 470, Resource Conservation. Policy 4130, Free and Reduced Price Food Services. Under Instruction, Policy 6130, Program for the Gifted. And under Students, Policy 7170, Vandalism, and 7300, Extracurricular Athletics.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Badouris,
Yes.
Member Carroll,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Next up, resolution number 2017, authorizing the request to rename the Valley View Early Educational Childhood Center to the Dr. James Mitchum Early Childhood Center. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I do have some discussion. I know that, the Valley View School was one of the first schools in the school district many years ago and named Valley View School. And our district is named after Valley View School. And, I have a little bit of an issue, and I've had community members approach me, and they have issues with the naming of Valley View School, and the name change as well.
It's not called Valley View School any longer.
So noted.
Valley View.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
I have a statement. So Sally, what is your concern that we're losing the words Valley View in the entire district? Is that your concern?
Yeah, that's a big concern, that Valley View won't be called Valley View anymore.
When you say Valley View, the district, the school, exactly?
The school itself, yeah, historically. And also, I'm not sure if we're even supposed to be renaming buildings anymore, to tell you the truth. And I would prefer not to.
Okay, when you say we're not supposed to be renaming,
I thought there was a policy that we weren't supposed to do that anymore.
is anybody familiar with that policy?
I am not.
I am familiar with the policy.
It was about 20 years ago, but I don't know when it came in and whether it ever went out.
Well, we named the administration after the great late Emmy Dunn, which is perfect
Yep.
in my all that she did for us. So that was less than 20 years ago.
A. Vito Martinez.
Is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please. Madam Clerk?
Member Badouris,
Wait, I'm sorry. Where did you leave that last part off at?
We have a
change
motion
the
and a
name.
second. If there's no further discussion, a roll call vote would be in order.
No, I understand that part, but what about this, something about you can't name buildings or something?
It's been,
No.
yeah,
No, it is certainly allowable. I can pull up the board policy and read it to you if you'd like.
But I think there was a policy possibly written that said that we're not supposed to do that anymore.
I've never seen
We're
such
not aware of
policy.
any such policy that's been written and adopted by the board. And our understanding and review of the law indicates that you are able to name a building.
And in fact, as Member Campbell said, we have named a couple facilities after people who have made great contributions to our district, including the building we're sitting in. Motion and second. Hearing none, seeing none.
Agreed on that one, Steve.
Pardon me?
I said I agree on that one.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No,
Member Carroll,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Wait,
Yes.
you didn't ask me. You didn't ask me. You
Oh,
can go back to me.
Okay, Member Badouris?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
And President Quigley?
Yes. At this time, I would like to read the resolution authorizing the request to rename Valley View Early Childhood Center to the Dr. James Mitchum Early Childhood Center. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Mitchum's worked for this district for over 30 years in various capacities, including the principal of both of our high schools. Started out as a PE teacher, as I believe. It's been too long since I looked at your resume. Dedicated a lifetime of service to one district. I know he was out for a couple years, one other place, but the reality is that kind of public service in a district is almost unheard of anymore. And all the members of the board were driving around over the weekend, and maybe some still have some signs to drop off with members that are retiring from our district, from the Valley View family, putting signs in their yard because we couldn't have a retirement party. The reality of all of this is we'd rather have Jim sit here in front of us today and give him an award and a big handshake and a big bear hug if we could. But I want to tell him thank you for helping us redirect this district. 7 or 8 years ago, maybe the conversation probably started 9 or 10 years ago about where we were and where we thought we could go. And in my humble opinion, and I've been on the board as long as anybody but Member Campbell, that we should take this district in a different direction. And Jim's vision and belief, and by sheer willpower, turned this district in a different direction. And I truly mean that. And I want to thank him personally, and we will do that someday over a big margarita or whatever you want. But I do appreciate it. And for those who don't understand this, you're not paying attention. It's just that simple. If you don't know where we were to where we are, don't ask the question. Find out first, and then recognize what you see in greatness. These communities have some seriously good leaders. We're losing 2 in Bolingbrook alone, in Valley View. People with 30+ years of experience in leading a community to different places than they would ever have been without that leadership. So Jim, on behalf of myself and my family, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchum.
Thank you, Jim.
Dr. Mitchum.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Back to the resolution. Whereas the school district owns certain real estate property located at 753 Dalhart Avenue, Romeoville, commonly referred to as the Valley View Early Childhood Center, and whereas Dr. Mitchum has served the school district as an honorable leader for almost 40 years. I said 30, 40. All right. And whereas through his tenure within the school district, Dr. Mitchum has demonstrated an unprecedented commitment to the positive growth and development of the school district and children. And whereas Dr. Mitchum's generous support, the Valley View Early Childhood Center was expanded in 2017 and now provides over 600 preschoolers with a high-quality, engaging learning environment. And whereas Dr. Mitchum's strong leadership provided the educators, students, and families with the backing to establish the Valley View Early Childhood Center as a gold circle of quality program, one of the highest ranking preschool programs you can receive. And whereas under the tutelage of Dr. Mitchum, school personnel across the district have learned the important lesson to inspire a mind, I first must touch a heart. And whereas upon his retirement, in honor of all the hearts Dr. Mitchum has touched and all the minds that he has inspired, the school district desires to recognize the commitment of Dr. James Mitchum and the many accolades the school district has achieved during his steadfast dedication to the students, staff, families, and community. And whereas the Valley View School District wishes Dr. James Mitchum good fortune and good health in his retirement, whereas the school district wishes to change the name of Valley View Childhood Center to the Dr. James Mitchum Early Childhood Center in recognition of his approximately 40 years of commitment to the children of this and love for the children of this district. And whereas the school district hereby finds and determines it is in the best interest of the school district and its residents to rename the Valley View Early Childhood Center to the Dr. James Mitchum Early Childhood Center effective July 1, 2020. Therefore, now it be resolved by the Board of Education of Valley View Communities 365U, Will County, Illinois. So we did it. The rest of it's all mumbo jumbo. So on behalf of myself again, James, thank you. You want a speech, Fi?
No speech. Just thank you. I'm humbled. I'm very humbled. I'm very appreciative. So just thank you.
Thank you.
At the right time, I'll say my piece.
Moving down the agenda, where are we at? 9.1. Insurance. Mr. Grizafi. There's a
First action this evening is a recommendation to renew the contract with Alliant Mesro. They've offered to maintain their current annual service fee of $85,000, representing their total compensation with the district for each of the next 2 fiscal years. You've got a list of services that are provided to the district on behalf of Alliant Mesro. I did have a conversation with Renee Formel, the representative who services us, talked about the fee and the idea of a potential reduction of the fee in light of all that's happening around us. And, you know, the discussion was very candid. The explanation was that typically they would take a 3% increase year over year. They held the fee for about the first 7 years of service to the district, beginning back in 2010 at $80,000. I think the last renewal, the 2-year renewal, went up to $85,000, and they're keeping it at the same for the next 2 years. She also shared with me that this fee is very nominal in light of the size of our district and what they provide, and felt it was more than fair. And I would tend to agree for a district our size that again, the fee seems very in line with what it could be. So again, I just wanted to convey that I did have that conversation, as we will with most of our providers, just to see that you know, hey, we're looking for any and all considerations, again, in light of what's happening. And so I am recommending that we approve the renewal for benefit consultant services with Alliant Mesro for the 2021 and 21-22 fiscal years.
motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Badouris,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
and President Quigley.
Yes. Next,
Next
fee
are
adjustments.
student fee adjustments, credits, and refunds for the 4th quarter due to the COVID-19 school shutdown. We're going to be recommending that credits be applied to current or future school fees for families if the amount is greater than $25. Give us time to process these and load them for the 2021 school year. Exceptions to that would be for families that are leaving the district, where we would provide a full refund. The refunds fall into 6 general categories. School trust account refunds. These are the schools that monies that the schools have collected at the school, typically representing field trips or fundraisers, where a refund might be due when services were not provided. The building principals or staff will communicate the ability to apply for that refund to the parents and decide if the student trust account would receive a deposit into the student's Infinite Campus account or district account, or if they would be given a refund by school check. Next area is transportation. Obviously, we were out of school for the 4th quarter, so we're recommending a quarterly credit of $131.25, representing exactly 1/4 of those costs. Early childhood tuition. This is for the families that are tuition-based, paying $245 a month for half day or $600 a month for full day. Obviously, with us not being in session, we didn't feel it right to collect that tuition, and so those unpaid obligations would need to be adjusted. Credits for tuition that was prepaid would need to be processed, and obviously, if they hadn't paid their tuition, we wouldn't charge them. In the areas of pre-K and elementary, we're not recommending any refunds for the instructional resource registration or technology fees. These students are indeed learning remotely. They were in session for at least 3/4 of the year. The building may have school trust account refunds, and those would be followed with the earlier report on school trust account refunds.
You done?
Nope. In terms of middle school, no refunds will be given, again, for the instructional resource registration and technology fees. This would also apply to the high school. Band equipment and uniform rental also would not be refunded. Students are indeed working remotely and have participated in many of the activities throughout 3/4 of the year. Adjustments in credits at the middle school would be applied to spring sports as they began on March 2nd, and we're not going to be prorating those or charging a fee. Boys volleyball uniform, unless the student had actually received the uniform and kept it. Graduation gowns, graduation medallions, and prorated scholastic bowl would also be in line for an adjustment and/or credit. Again, with the high school and STEP, not refunding any or crediting any instructional resource registration or tech fees, band or uniforms, concert and choral dress, second semester course fees, or driver's education. Adjustments would be for spring sports, similar to middle school. The parking pass for the 4th quarter would be adjusted in a quarterly amount of $31.25. Indoor-outdoor track would be adjusted or credited as the season only ran 8 of the 19 weeks. Any fees paid to Wilco, they would need to contact Wilco Career Center for refunds from that program. And so at this time, we are recommending approval of the student fee adjustments for the 4th quarter as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Give me a water.
Do all-day kindergarten, pay a fee?
They do.
Yes.
How much is the fee for all-day kindergarten?
$220.
$220, that's per year?
Yes.
And then, I have one more question. Did kindergarten and pre-K, did they receive services from us, during the stay-at-home orders?
Yes, and they will continue until the end of the school year.
Okay, but we are refunding still their money?
Just the tuition-based students.
So it's not the equivalent of being in a full day. So you asked the full day kindergarten fee, and actually all but I believe one child are in full day kindergarten in the district, which I'm very proud to say. But I think what you're referring to is our early childhood children who are in the full day program. What is the fee for full day?
No, I was asking about both, actually.
Well, there's two different things, because with early childhood, those students who have paid seats pay what? Pay how much now? $600 a month for a paid seat in the early childhood program. And so those individual students are not receiving the equivalent of services in the remote setting, although they're receiving some. But $600 a month is quite a large fee compared to, all-day kindergarten of $220 per year, or $75 just regular fee for students who are in early childhood, not in a paid seat. So that's the difference in the refund there.
Yeah, I was asking about kindergarten and pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
We have a motion, we have a second. No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Badura,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
and President Quigley.
Yes. 9.3.
Next is the FY21 Annual Consolidated Instructional and Operational Software Services Renewal. They are broken down into 2 sections, instructional software and services. We've got 8 titles listed there, with a summary on the final page of the costs both for last year and this year, and the funding source. Under the operations software services and maintenance, we've got 5 titles listed there. Same with the cost for last year and this year, along with the funding source and any notes that would help you to understand what the changes are year to year. At this time, we are recommending the approval of the software service support and maintenance renewals for FY21, totaling $1,078,332.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
I have questions. The Blackboard, who uses the Blackboard software?
Every building would use the Blackboard to maintain their online presence.
It's the service that we use for all of our websites, so the district website and every individual school's websites.
What, can you explain it to me? The
So
Blackboard?
we have a website, www.vvsd.org, and in order to create and maintain that website, Blackboard is a service that provides us essentially the structure, and then we, essentially like the template, the bones to create a website, and then we maintain the content inside of that website. And then each school has its own website.
Okay. That makes sense. And then I have a question about, let's see what this one's called. Renaissance Learning, the Star 360. Can you explain that one to me as well?
Sure.
On the second page.
So essentially what this is it's a computer adaptive assessment that assesses students' literacy, reading, mathematics, and it's diagnostic, and it also allows us to progress monitor. And so based on where students are at, then there are adaptive lessons that teachers can assign to the students to support them with where they are at in their learning. So whether it's closing gaps or advancing their learning. It's a very powerful tool to provide support, enrichment, enhancement. And if you, for example, if you think about now with students being at different places in their learning, which they always were, but it's going to be, there's going to be even more gaps that exist. The need for teachers to have high quality targeted supports for students and know where they are to provide that differentiated support is going to be more important than ever. In addition, being in a remote learning setting has really solidified the importance of, the power of a tool such as this, because whether students are remote learning in the fall or come back to us on site, teachers real time need to know where their students are at and be able to assess those areas of need and then assign them and assess them additional supports and practice. So it's a very powerful tool to support the system of support.
And who uses that one?
Our elementary teachers, STAR 360 and Freckle. It's math and ELA. Mm-hmm.
Can you, math and ELA?
I'm sorry, so early literacy is pre-K 3 and reading is K-12 and mathematics K-12. So we primarily use it in elementary. It will have an expanded use as well. And then we do have students who are receiving interventions or special education services who we use the tool for as well.
And then I want to compare and contrast to Achieve 3000, because I thought that was similar without the math component.
So compare and contrast in the terms or in the content of what it is?
So I see that the STAR 360, that it does a lot and it costs a lot. But I also see the Achieve, and to me it seems like the STAR 360 can do what the Achieve does.
No, that's not accurate. And if you recall, we had previously approved I believe a 3 or 5 year Achieve. What this is a portion of Achieve that's actively learn. Mr. Herder's on the call as well, so I'll essentially ask him to step to the virtual podium and explain why Achieve provides something different for our learners in comparison to STAR 360. And Freckle is math also, by the way.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Kinder. My name is Adam Herder. I'm the Executive Director for our middle and high schools. In answer to the question regarding STAR 360 and Actively Learn, STAR 360, as Assistant Superintendent Kinder mentioned, is an assessment system that allows us to assess kids primarily in elementary school and then students with IEPs as well in middle and high school, a select population of students. The Actively Learn component is a core curriculum resource. So what our middle school and high school teachers have been using, to some degree in high school, all middle school teachers in their English and language arts class Actively Learn provides a platform for teachers to provide daily assessments and get feedback for kids in terms of planning on a day-to-day basis with specific articles and specific questions. So it's basically a convenience feature, not only for teachers, but it allows kids to get this daily feedback piece. Whereas by contrast, something like Star 360, students take that at different benchmark points throughout the year. And certain students are progress monitored with that tool as well. But the two tools provide distinct functions, one being an assessment system that provides common assessment criteria that is normed, which is Star 360. And then the Actively Learn product is a core curriculum analogous to like a literacy textbook when we used to not have online resources where all of our daily curriculum is kept. And it's proven to be a dramatic support during remote learning, especially because it's provided a way for teachers to individualize support for students on a nearly daily basis without having to do a significant amount of work in the background, gathering data to support kids with that level of feedback. So the voice we've gotten from teachers regarding Actively Learn at the middle school level is significantly positive in terms of it being a support for them to be effective remotely, and it would transition very well to us being back in person because it would provide the same supports in allowing kids to continue to use their technology even when we're back in person as well.
Okay, so I think that not every teacher is aware of all of these that are available to them. So are we doing things to make or to help them know what we're paying for here? Like not everybody knows what the Star 360 and the freckle is all about. If like it says it goes to reading K-12, but not everybody knows that that's available to them.
Yeah, that is a good point. And so it would depend on the staff members who are using it. So if you ask like a early elementary teacher, they'd be able to tell you what Star 360 was, as their students are universally using it. If you asked a special education co-teacher, for example, in the middle school, they would be able to refer to Star 360 because they use that extensively. Actively Learn is right now as a resource in the secondary world, for example. So if you asked a middle school ELA teacher, they would be familiar with Actively Learn. Vice versa, conversely, if you asked an elementary teacher about Actively Learn, they may not be as familiar. But we definitely do, with all of these adoptions, have a significant pre-planned, proactive professional development plan. Actively Learn would be another good example of that. Where teachers have been receiving supports during remote learning, and then we're already planning for optional summer supports for teachers for that role product, as well as supports back in the fall that would be virtually available to teachers as well. So because the resources do overlap, but because they do different things, Member Gilbo, to your point, it would depend on which staff member you're asking, I think, in terms of which staff members would have familiarity with which.
I was thinking that maybe we could just let them know that these things are available to them, that they might want, like if some are using and some aren't, and if they don't overlap, like I thought they were overlapping, then maybe they could use these as well, if not overlapping. Then I have a question about the Mastery Manager. This is an assessment tool, and we said that the Star 360 is an assessment tool. Do those overlap each other?
Perhaps in the essence of time, you could maybe call Mr. Herder offline and get answers to these questions.
Well, I think we're voting on paying for
different software programs. If we're going to go through each one of them, we're going to be here all night.
We're not going through each one, but if we're gonna vote on paying for these, if they're both the same, and we're looking for saving money because of the situation that could be coming up and that is coming up, I would like to know if they're overlapping things that we're paying.
There are not. They'll give you the short answer to that.
So-
There are not overlapping
Rachel,
things.
excuse-
They're meeting very specific
Rachel,
needs.
Excuse me. I understand we're all in that mindset of trying to save the district's money, but I also have enough confidence in certain people in this administration
Steve, I
that
think
they
it's
will
okay to
have the
ask.
ability to forward and discard things to us that they don't think we need in cost-saving
it's
measures,
okay
or
in
things
our
that
job-
become, pardon me,
Yeah.
things that become non-useful will be jettisoned, and things that we need will keep, and things that will be promotional will pick up in the future. You've had
I
this
do think
board
that-
agenda since last Thursday or Friday, and you're asking every question, and half of these questions could have easily been answered by staff. I, for one, have a job, and I'm trying to do it, and we're sitting here answering questions that don't need to be answered in this spectrum. You could get those questions answered and say, thank you, I got the answers I needed from staff prior to, and then if you still have concerns, you could bring them to your fellow board members.
Well, this is the thing. I'm here to speak for the community and for the staff and for the members and for the students of our community. And if I can ask questions that will help answer their questions, then that is my job to do. And also, if I can check to see if there's any money that we can save, that's also my job to do. And I think that if we have it in this setting, that hopefully the people can see and their questions will be answered too, because it's hard for them to get out and ask questions. So I don't think that it's a bad thing that I ask questions. If you have to go to work, I'm sorry.
not saying that it's a bad thing that you ask questions, but some of these questions could have been answered previous to coming to the board.
But maybe parents would like to know the answers to these questions, and maybe staff would like to know the answers to these questions. I have another question from a staff member that they would like me to ask today.
Feel
And
free.
their question is, if we have Google Classroom could, for some reason, that there are sometimes people that are plagiarizing and they're only allowed to have a plagiarism check 3 times in a year with this software. And is there any way that we could purchase something that could help them to check with that? That's another question that I have from staff members. So I'm not speaking just for myself, I'm speaking to help others.
And again, this was an
answer that
information item a
question?
month ago.
Can anybody help me with that question, please?
So just to bring some reassurance, we work very closely with our union leadership, who is regularly receiving feedback from staff, who recently did a pulse check gathering feedback from staff. We will be surveying staff for feedback on needs, how things went during remote learning, what went well, what should change. We're going to have, as we always do, teacher voice in making improvements overall and in specialized areas. And so and obviously, if that's a concern that a teacher has, and that is, I have heard that mentioned in the high school realm somewhat regarding possibly a tool in that regard, that's something that our teams of teachers can research, and we can perhaps identify a solution to help with that if that is a need.
Thank you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Fire
These-
away.
These programs are just, it's like basically software updates, correct? This is nothing new, not like a big undertaking.
You repay for them, like.
Right. These
They are
just this is the
subscriptions.
servicing portion of it?
Mhm.
Okay. Just checking.
Mm-hmm. They are subscriptions.
Thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. Further questions? Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Badouris,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Next.
Final action this evening is a recommendation to authorize an issuance of tax anticipation warrants not to exceed $66 million in anticipation of the collection of taxes levied for the year 2019. Before we get too deep into this, I wanted to try to cover a little bit about what got us to this point. If you can imagine that we get paid, 2/3 of our revenue comes in twice a year, June and September, and that coincides with when property taxes are paid by our commercial, industrial, and residential taxpayers. The county, following the lead of other counties in the collars surrounding Cook, have taken up different positions on what they might do to help taxpayers in meeting the obligation to pay their taxes. DuPage County allowed a 90-day delay if you met 4 specific hardship criteria. You'd have to sign an affidavit, and the criteria were listed on the information report in the packet. Kane County offered a 30-day, no questions asked, delay in paying property taxes. McHenry County, I believe, offered a 90-day delay in paying property taxes. And so really everything we're talking about here relates to cash flow. What type of cash flow do we have in order to meet our obligations to operate? Our levy for 2019 was $192 million. So if you take that $192 million and chop that in half, split it between June and September, that's $96 million each collection. Our first distribution occurs as early as May 21st. That's the earliest that we would receive any taxes for people who pay their taxes early. The next distribution is June 4th, which is the day after taxes are due on June 3rd. So it's not really likely that we would receive a large distribution on that day because it takes the county some time to reconcile, make sure all the payments are accounted for, loaded into the system, and distributed to all the taxing agencies throughout the county. So our big distribution is June 18th. That's when we would expect the bulk of our receipts from the June 3rd collection date or due date. DuPage County has a different schedule. Their first payment was, or first distribution was May 13th. And in following a listserv with colleagues, the distributions compared to last year ranged from anywhere from 26% of what they received last year to 67% of what they received last year. So that's a pretty wide range of what the expectation would be in terms of distributions for taxes paid. And so this is what's been discussed in our Finance Committee with Member Zach and Baduris. In light of what's going on in our world, what can we expect? What should we expect? And really nobody has those answers because we've never been through this before. And with that range coming out of DuPage, it's a big concern for all of us. And so they were raising the flag early, that first meeting, to talk about, hey, what are you guys seeing? What are you doing? And so Treasurer Borg, Joanne Borg, and myself ran some pro forma cash flows, what-if scenarios, if you will, to say what should we expect, what can we expect, not knowing what the Will County might do in terms of collections. Back on early May, the Finance Committee of Will County was recommending that they follow the same lead as DuPage County, allowing a delay of up to 90 days with those 4 criteria. On Thursday of last week, the Executive Committee didn't take the Finance Committee's recommendation, but is proposing to recommend to the full county board a 50% delay in the amount that's due on each collection day. So really what that looks like is that we would receive 25% of the distribution on June 4th, which is our next collection day, 25% on August 4th, or 60 days later, 25% on September 3rd, due date, and then the last remaining half on November 3rd. So we're going to see our distributions really kind of scattered out over time. What we don't know is, will people even follow that schedule if they don't have the money? And so if we were to get 0 collections for 90 days, which is what this issuance was predicated on, because that's the best information we had at the time, we were anticipating a $12 million distribution, which is not a lot of money. And in the scenarios we ran, if the delay was going to be 90 days, and we were only going to get the amount of money that was paid via escrow, And understand that 59% of the property in the district is residential. 41% is commercial industrial. And so we're only talking, typically your commercial industrial don't pay via escrow. It's usually your residential. We were anticipating, again, a $12 million distribution. And had that been the case, based on what we heard from the finance committee of the county, we would not have been able to make payroll in August without liquidating some of our investments early. We would have been $12 million short for our August operations. And so that was, not what we wanted to talk about. We didn't want to have to pull money and decide what we were going to liquidate first and go through all of that. With this latest scenario, the 50% delay in the payment of taxes for 60 days, that $12 million climbs to $24 million distributed every 60 days. And that will put us, we would be okay through July and maybe August. And if we receive the other 25% of the June payment, we should be okay. But we don't know. We don't know definitively what the county's going to decide, and we don't know definitively what's going to be collected. And so the $66 million is an amount that is determined by formula. And so the formula is in the packet. It's the amount that's levied in the education fund, $102 million, less any taxes received to date. So that's date dependent. So if we were to receive $12 million, the least amount of money we would expect to receive, that 66 drops to 54. If we were to receive $40 million, that 66 would drop to 24, meaning that's the amount we could tentatively borrow. Then you take 85% of that, minus any cash in the working cash fund, which is a little over $20 million. So the maximum authorized issue size is $66.7 million. And that's what the parameters resolution is being presented for. We know full well we're not going to be able to issue that amount of money. This was a worst case scenario based on the sky is falling and nobody paying any taxes for 90 days. That was the best information we had at the time. We believe, and a term sheet went out today, a term sheet is like a bid sheet to 8 or 9 providers, banks, for a $15 million borrowing. And we look at that as making sure we're not caught short and having to scramble the jets, if you will, to meet our obligations. If we were to issue $15 million, yes, we're going to have to pay interest on it, but we feel pretty comfortable we'll be able to operate through the month of September. What we don't know as we sit here today is what does September look like? If the county takes up this latest form, where they're going to give a 50% delay, meaning 25% in June, 25% in August, 25% in September, 25% in November, I like that hybrid solution. It's something we hadn't talked about in the finance committee because it wasn't proposed. But again, it's a lot better than a 90-day delay. And if the belief is that folks are struggling, which we know they are, to meet their obligations for June payment, how could September be any better? It wouldn't be. So, that's what I think has got all of us concerned, certainly as a finance committee, to make sure we've got enough funds to operate and pay our people and pay our bills. And with the $15 million issuance, that's not even a month's operation. A typical month is anywhere between $22, $25 million. So we're borrowing roughly 2/3 of a month under this TAW, with, again, some ability to issue up to that 66, but every time we receive a distribution, tax distribution, that 66 will decrease. The amount will decrease by that amount. And so we're hopeful, certainly, that 15 is going to be all we need to get us through this low tide. But there are so many unknowns related to this that we just want to make sure we're able to meet our obligations. One of the points of discussion was we want to be at the front of the line versus the back of the line. And the rates really aren't all that bad. The anticipated rate on this is going to be between 1.5 and 2%. We can take that money and invest it. It's not subject to arbitrage. We can use that interest earnings to offset the interest costs for the TAW. And so again, we're not talking, an absurd amount of interest. It's going to be paid off quickly. The maximum you can go is 13 months. We're thinking we would, if the distributions happen like they might with the county adopting that 60-day delay, we might get this thing paid off in late September, early October. But we don't have to, which is nice. The longer we carry it, obviously there's more interest to be paid. In conjunction with that, the district is cutting where it can. I've talked to all of my directors. I know Rachel has talked to all of her respective directors on what can we do to operate more efficiently. And so, capital outlay for next year is basically going to be chopped out of the 21 budget. We had a carpeting bid that went out that, we were going to bring to the board. We were ready, and I said, we're not doing that. I mean, as much as we'd all like new carpet, what do you do when money's tight? You cut back on things like, things that are not necessarily needs, but wants. We've got open positions that are being evaluated daily, and many will go unfilled. In fact, most, I would say, will go unfilled. Departmental budgets will be cut. To what extent, we're not exactly sure, and I think that's something that's going to be coming to the board here in the near future in terms of what types of things would be supported to be reduced from a service level, starting as far away from the classroom as we can, and obviously getting closer with each reduction in the budget. So again, I hope that helps you understand the cash flow position and concern that both myself, Joanne Borg, and the members of the Finance Committee have been working through just to make sure that, again, we're not caught short with all of these unknowns as it relates to property taxes.
Thanks, Gary.
So with that, again, I want to recommend that we approve the resolution 2018 authorizing the issuance of not to exceed the $66 million in taxable tax anticipation warrants in anticipation of the collection of taxes levied for the year 2019 by the Board of Education of the district for educational purposes, and authorizing the sale of said warrants to the purchaser thereof.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you for the explanation, Gary.
Do we have a second?
A second, yeah.
So I want to thank Vic and JT for their efforts, and Gary and staff and all the folks you talked to. This isn't an easy thing to do, but it is easy to do. All we have to do is vote on it, but it's hard to get to that point, but it's smart for us to get to that point. And if we only have to do that 15 versus 60 or 66 million, whatever the ultimate number could be, it's just smart use of our money at this particular time, and to avoid a cash flow problem. For those of you who've been around a while, you might remember that we have loaned money on tax warrants to other school districts at the end of the year because they were short on making payroll. I don't remember the last time we did that, but I know we have done it in the past. With Plainfield, was it? Oswego.
Yeah, there was a few districts.
We've got a couple of districts we've loaned some money to, so we could make a few, a point or two on interest that we maybe not been able to make elsewhere. But it is very, we are in uncharted waters, I guess, when it comes to this. And hopefully the economy will right itself and we won't have these problems going forward. But again, I want to thank you. I know you guys put a lot of time and discussion in on this before you got to this thing today. So very much appreciated for your efforts, Vic and JT and Gary and staff. So
Yes, thank you.
we have a motion and a second. Any questions?
I have a comment. Deb, your picture's up. I didn't know if you had something to say or no.
No, I just thanked him for his explanation.
Okay. Yeah, Gary, I thank you for your explanation as well, and Vic and JT for your work. I do know that the community has just received their tax bills already, and I've already heard from quite a few people from the community that they're not real happy that their tax bills have gone up 300 to 700 to more right now. And they're not real happy that it could possibly go up more if we're taking more loans, and then it will be on their backs. So I would really I heard Gary talk about some cuts that they're thinking about making and some cuts that they have made already. I would like, before we vote on this, I would like to at least until our next board meeting to see if there are some cuts and what those cuts are and how much we can make in those cuts before we decide to borrow more money and put it on our taxpayers' backs during this tough time.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Buduris,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Pero,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes, but we do need to look at cuts.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes, and staff is aware of that, and they will be continuing, as Gary said, and Rachel concurred, to look at places where we can save money, and again, anticipation of what we don't know in the future. Moving down the agenda, Ms. Nash, Consolidated Action Report as amended.
Thank you, President Quigley. I have amended Action Report 10.1, which is the Consolidated Action Report for Certified and Classified Personnel. This evening, we're seeking approval on 69 items for certified personnel, 33 items for classified personnel, 1 item for classified administrative personnel, and 3 items for certified administrative personnel.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion?
I do. Sorry, guys, but I just have to. I think, again, this is another area where we need to look. I heard Gary talk about and others talk about possibly having to look at who we're hiring and who is filling positions and financially where everything's going to take us. And I do know that within this packet, there are requests for hiring. And I think we really need to take a strong look at this before we tell people they have a job and then possibly maybe they don't have the job they think they have. Maybe they have to be moved somewhere else because of some juggling that needs to be done before the school year starts. I think this is too early to do this. And I think we really need to take a strong look and get all of this in order before we do this to somebody, because they could be starting to plan for what they're going to teach or where they're going to be, and it could change. I would like to hold off until we could tell these people for sure what's going on.
For every vacancy that we have, we do review and see if it is an area that we could put on hold, and we have put several on hold, which I have communicated to the board and will continue to communicate. And there are some positions that need to be filled based on the programming and the enrollment of students that we have, or based on the needs that we have at this current time. So we do continue to review those, and we'll identify those in the short term, as well have a more interim strategy, and then looking further into the future if we have to make adjustments as necessary. So that's going to be something that we do on an ongoing basis.
We have a motion and we have a second. No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Member Pero,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Buduris,
No.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes. Yes.
and President Quigley.
Yes. Job descriptions.
Next on the agenda is an amended Action Report 10.2. This is for the revised job description for the special education teacher position. This job description was originally presented for information in December 2019, but was held pending review on some questions with respect to essential functions. This job description was last approved in 2009 and required updates due to licensure changes, programming terminology, and expectations that have occurred over the last 11 years. Again, this is just approval of revisions to the special education teacher job description.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Roll call vote. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Badouris,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Ms. Nash, 10.3.
10.3, we are seeking your approval for the appointment of Sara Hoffer to the core content administrator position at Bolingbrook High School.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I do have some discussion on this. As I just mentioned before, with the hires and with the positions that we need to look at, this is one of the positions I think we really should table for now. And we should really take a look if this is something that is possibly maybe not needed. If we come into dire straits where we have to look at where our money is being spent. So I would like to, I don't know if I can table it now if it's too late, but if not, definitely have everybody think hard on looking at positions like this, as if this is something that possibly would be something that we may not have to have as essential to the education of our students. I'll leave it at that.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Can this be tabled or no?
We already have a motion and a second.
Are there any explanation, Assistant Superintendent Kinder or Adam Herder, does anybody want to respond to that or the need for this position at this present time?
Absolutely. The need has been established, and this position has been in place for quite a few years. I would say probably 7 years. And it's a very critical function to supporting teachers. BHS, as we know, is a very large high school. There's close to 30 teachers in the math department alone, plus special education teachers and other staff. That is a great amount of staff that needs support, direct support. The evaluation process is another component that they play a key role in, as well as supporting instruction and curriculum implementation. So it is a critical position that we've been established. If we do find ourselves in the dire straits that you've mentioned, we will be evaluating our entire administrative structure as well as our entire staffing structure as a district holistically. Our first short-term strategy, though, is identifying those other positions that we believe can remain unfilled or temporarily on hold, and we are doing that. This does not fall in that category. I do feel that for the support of Bolingbrook High School and the math teachers in the department, as well as math instruction for all of our kids. I mean, we have 3,500 students at Bolingbrook High School that are all taking mathematics. I find this to be an essential function. This individual has expertise in mathematics and devotes a lot of time to that department specifically. Many of our departments at BHS are the size of some schools. And so I think it is only the right thing to do to provide the proper administrative support. And if we need to reassess that as we incrementally move through the strategies that we've discussed with the Finance Committee, then I believe we will do that. I believe this position should be approved at this time. And of course, as all staffing, be reevaluated in the future.
Yeah, I know that,
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Kinder.
sorry, Liz. I know that this person is, one of their main jobs is to do evaluations, and I know I have asked to simplify evaluations so that we don't have to have as many of these people do these long evaluations on these people. Also, with this core content administrative position in math, I'm not saying math is not important, but I do know they have department chairs, and I know that they have math teachers already within the building, and that these are people that are within the building that are supposed to be doing a lot of what the department chairs used to do. And right now, with our stay-at-home orders, we don't have them directly affiliated with students at this time. And that's why I'm asking to hold off on this, because these are not people that are directly in contact with students with the, what's going on right now. And that's why I would like to not fill these positions right at this moment until necessary, instead of filling it and then taking it away from them later.
So I have a question, Rachel. Do they not only support students, but also staff?
They support both students and staff, and they are providing support in the remote learning setting. And while I don't know for certain what next year will look like, I do know that most likely there will be some point where we are on-site learning. And I also know that the change, the monumental shift that we've undergone with remote learning and completely switching our delivery of instruction requires a great deal of support for teachers. And my priority is to ensure that our staff is supported so that our kids are supported. And I understand the fine line we walk with budget reductions, but I am not in favor of just making ad hoc decisions and cutting everything we can, because our staff will suffer and our students will suffer as a result. And so it is my job to ensure that we walk that fine line. We live within our means, make reductions wherever we possibly can, so that those staff who directly support students have what they need and have the support that they need, because they are in a very tough position, tougher than ever before. And that is my job, that is my charge, within the fiscal means that we have and being fiscally responsible. And right now we've identified a lot of other areas where we can make reductions, and we'll continue to do that. And so this is one position that I'm bringing to you for approval. There's 3 others that I did not. I have others that will be on hold for the next board meeting. You will see some for approval at the next board meeting, because I've deemed those to be essential. Does not mean that they will not be up for future consideration, but there will be others that will be put on hold. And so that is the fine line we walk right now, and I believe that's the job that we are charged with, to make those decisions within the means that we have, and ask for your support as a board to ensure that we are supporting our staff to the fullest, giving them the tools that they need, giving them the resources they need to instruct remotely, giving them the support through administrative leadership that they need in order to fully support our students. They are in the trenches more than ever, and in the virtual trenches, it's a whole new space. And pulling direct supports right now is an area that I'm trying to avoid in favor of other short-term things that teachers will not feel that loss from, and then our students won't feel that immediate loss from. Everything is on the table, of course, but for the time being, for this immediate strategies that we're employing, this is a position that I'm seeking the board's approval on.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Viduris,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Ms. Nash, 10.4, please.
Yes, 10.4 is amended, seeking approval for the revised intervention and enrichment coordinator job description. This job description was approved in 2018, and there are currently intervention enrichment coordinators in all elementary, but also 1 middle school. And at the time that it was written, it was limited to the pre-K-5 setting for some reason. So this change just allows us to bring in the job description to have it apply to the middle position that's already in place. There are also some changes for Illinois licensure changes and some of the job titles that were in the original document. So again, this is just a revision to the existing job description for the intervention and enrichment coordinator.
I would like to add, in addition to what Dr. Nash just shared, this is an example. This is just an updated job description. This is not adding staff. And in fact, and when we first did staffing for the upcoming school year, we had 5 FTE that were additions or actually adjustments within our staffing in order to bring this position, and that has been put on hold as well. So that is an example of an area that is needed, but has to be put on hold for future assessment, and we will not be hiring those for the upcoming school year, and that is 5 full-time equivalencies. And so what we're seeking today is simply the revision of the job description, and this will be revisited in the future when we're able to, or if we're able to hire those individuals.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion?
I do. What do these people do right now in our situation that we're in right now? The intervention enrichment coordinator job.
The same thing that they do when they are here in person. They provide intervention and support, teaching, and reteaching and assessing our students who need additional support. They're also supporting teachers with areas where they need support as well. So they see students, they meet with students, they deliver interventions, just as they would if they were face-to-face, but they are adapting, just like all of our staff, to figure out how to be creative and to figure out how to reach students and learn new strategies, use new tools, and provide students with as much support as they possibly can. They're working very hard, just like all of our staff.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say I am in no way whatsoever insinuating that these people don't work hard for kids. I am in no way insinuating that. I appreciate, and I know everybody appreciates, everything that these teachers and these staff members do for our kids in Valley View School District. That's not what this is all about whatsoever. This is just about what is essential right at this time and what is not essential, and with what Gary has told us, what do we need to do and where can we do what we need to do to help this community and what's best for their children. That's all I'm trying to do here.
I fully understand that, Member Gilbo, and I respect that. What I'm saying is this is an example when our elementary students are at the earliest, most critical phases of their learning and they're having this disruption in learning, when they come back to us or when we meet them remotely in the fall or over the summer when we're bridging them back, the gaps that exist for many of our littlest learners at the most critical phases need additional support. And so this is not on a short-term reduction track, but of course, like everything, it's open to future evaluation based on resources and need. Additionally, as a Title I district, we receive federal funds that are specifically intended toward supporting students that are at risk. In addition, we just received additional notification of our emergency relief grant allocation of $2.7 million. We just received that notification today. And the purpose for that is to support the remote learning infrastructure, but also to support students with continuity of learning and transitioning them back and making up for the skill gaps. As a district with many at-risk students, we still have to walk that fine line of using our resources. And if this obviously is a priority position that we're funding, we have to find ways to use the resources and, if necessary, make shifts. But this is a need that we have, and as much as our financial means allow, we have to do whatever we can to support our kids. And so this is one area that for our elementary students needs to remain subject to future assessment, of course. And like I said, for every one thing that I'm bringing to you, there's probably 5 more things that are on hold or 20 other things that have been removed from the budget for next year. So this is one that I am requesting the board's support on. And as I said before, this is the job description alone. We are not adding additional ones or anything of that nature, but that position right now for elementary is important and necessary.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Buduris?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Gilbo?
For the job description, if it needs to be updated for what we have now, I don't have a problem with that. I definitely want to look at how these people are being used and what is happening and how they're directly related with our students. And if it's, the only reason I hesitate is because I'm afraid that if we approve of this, and the thing that's being approved is that It's an additional for now moving into the middle school. And then I'm afraid that it's gonna be, now let's move it into the high school and let's have some more people in between that are not directly in touch with students within the class when we don't have the funds for that. So for now, I'm gonna vote yes on this to fix this, but I really wanna look at those issues.
Member Pero,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Information reports, board policies, Ms. Kinder?
Yes, these are just board policies that have been subject to review. They're being presented for first reading only. If you have any questions, these have also been reviewed by legal counsel, and we're open to questions between now and the next board meeting in June on these 4 policies.
Thank you. Any questions? Moving down the agenda, legal services report.
No report.
Thank you. Association reports. Renee, come on down.
Good evening, senior leadership and members of the board. I'm here today for a few reasons, but would like to start off with a heartfelt thank you. Thank you for all of the work that Shelley, Nicole Eimer, Print Shop, Rachel, and all of you members of the board had played a part in organizing, planning, and delivering all those yard signs to the retirees in this district. I was touched to see them and touched to see that they were all honored, and I thank each and every one of you for your time that helped brighten their days with their last few days here in Valley View. Next, I would just like to personally thank and send well wishes to all of our Valley View Council members who are sailing into retirement this year. I know this isn't how you imagined your last few months of work would be, and I'm sorry you didn't get to end the year with all of the treats, parties, and gifts that you normally would have received. So many parties put on hold for now, but I know your buildings, colleagues, and families will make them extra special when they do happen. Thank you all for your years of service here in Valley View. And I wish you all nothing but relaxation, happiness, and the best in your future endeavors. With it being the last meeting while the school is in session, I felt the need to come and address a few things and speak about how things have been over the last few months. Where does one begin? I think I'll start by letting you all know how proud I am to stand up here as the president of the Valley View Council. What I have witnessed over the last few months has been nothing short of exceptional. I have watched over 1,700 members change their lives, risk their lives, and put more blood, sweat, and tears into their profession than I ever could have imagined. None of us knew this was coming. None of us went to school for this, and none of us were trained for this. But yet all of us have responded to it. We have security guards organizing and running meal pickups, technology pickup, and taking online courses through FEMA to better themselves in their roles. We have paraprofessionals engaging in online activities with their respective classrooms, Zooming with students they support, and partaking in online training courses as well. Our maintenance staff has been back in buildings and working throughout the district since right after spring break, many feeling scared and uneasy as they headed back into work, all while the rest of us were working remotely. Nurses have become part of hotline teams, calling numerous families daily to check in with them and see how we can support them and their children with completing our learning tasks. And then we have our deans, social workers, psychologists, OTs, PTs, ESL, speech counselors, SRT leaders, and coordinators who are doing amazing things, from going to homes, connecting with students and families who are struggling, Zooming for hours to deliver interventions, becoming ambassadors and training staff on using new platforms such as Seesaw, running SPED meetings daily from afar to close out annual reviews, to supporting large caseloads to deliver the therapies needed for our students. Then we have our teachers. Wow is one word that comes to my mind when I think about what has been thrown in our laps. With one actual day of training, we have all converted and prepared for something this profession has never seen. With no classrooms, with no materials, and no clue what the heck we were doing, we have become online teachers trying to provide remote instruction to the thousands of students here in Valley View. Easy, right? No big deal, right? Well, I can assure you this was and is no easy task. Last week, we sent a survey out to our membership to begin the process of gathering voice and feedback to hear how things were going. And I'd like to share a little bit about that feedback with you. With just under 500 responses, our membership overwhelmingly has felt supported by administration through this process. Over 400 feel that Valley View has done a favorable job with the rollout and implementation of our learning. Over 400 feel like the work they are doing is meaningful, even though this is very hard for us to judge because we haven't surveyed our students and families yet, so gauging how we are doing is very difficult. And now some of the struggles we are dealing with. In our contract, we have contractual hours, right? Well, with our learning, those hours have become obsolete. Educators are spending 10 to 12 hours daily connecting with students via Zoom, Google Chats, approving work, reviewing work, receiving work, grading work, creating work. You name it, it's happening all day, every day. The balance of life versus home is something that I'm sure we can all relate to. Supporting and feeding our own children, which seems like a million times a day, seesawing or reviewing their Google work, or supporting a spouse with their job. Life in general is hard during this time, but teaching in it, there's not many words to describe it. We are struggling to connect to students, getting them to do their work, maintaining classroom culture and high expectations, all while our hands are tied by ISB. Providing meaningful feedback, delivering therapy and interventions through a computer. Talk about a challenge. We have become tech experts with programs we've never seen or used. We are supporting families with their tech challenges. Workload for SPED is tremendous. The lack of autonomy to do what we feel is best for our students isn't occurring. And being able to provide meaningful feedback and engaging work, since we can't teach new concepts, is very difficult. We are struggling to keep kids motivated to do the work. The list goes on, as you could imagine. But the one thing that was overwhelmingly shared by our members was the worry and care that we have for our students. Not seeing them, not being able to connect with them is scary for us. We miss them, we need them, and we have so many questions and fears as we head into summer thinking about next fall. Last week, I shared the results of this survey with Mrs. Kinder and Mrs. Nash, and we began problem solving our next steps, much of which I'm sure she will share with you in the near future. So that brings me to my original point in wanting to come. After I watched the last board meeting, I found myself angry, upset, and hurt by some of the comments that were made up here. And I quote, "The reality is people may be losing their jobs." And I quote, "I don't know how big corporations are going to pay their taxes." And I quote, "I'm uncomfortable putting these roles, IECs, into buildings when they just aren't teachers." And I quote, "We're paying them just because we have to," end quote. The mindset on this board should not be we have to pay them. Your mindset should be that they deserve every penny they're getting plus more. Online concerts are being put on by bands. Meal planning and workouts and tapes being created by our coaches. Sponsors running clubs through Zoom. You're darn right you have to pay them because they deserve it. Now I have to commend Mr. Grazafi on you and your team and how you spoke last month about EBF and what you just presented today. I know the work that you and your team have done over the years is the reason why this district is in the financial spot that we are in, and I thank you for that. While I understand how property taxes and EBF all work and how crucial they are to everything we do here in Valley View, how we look in Valley View, how we pay for things in Valley View, you have to understand that when I hear those comments being made, I shook my head in agony. Because the Valley View I know is thinking about students getting daily meals, our students getting devices so they can connect with teachers and classmates, the mental health and trauma of our students, and the hours on hours of end of work that you just heard me speak to. Those are the things on our mind 24/7. And hearing comments like those that were made are demeaning, they're hurtful, and they're upsetting to me. Because let me kindly remind you of your first sentence in your mission statement. Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life academically, socially, emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. Let me just tell you that none of those things are possible without the 1,700 members in the Valley View Council. While I am fully aware of your roles on this board and your responsibilities, I just ask for you to show some compassion when you make these difficult decisions moving ahead. I am fully committed to working with all of you and members of senior leadership to do what is best for Valley View as we head into the fall and beyond. I can say this with certainty. Our students are going to need us more than ever when we return. The trauma and mental health needs of our students will far outsee any academic losses that they have. What we are about to walk back into is a summer slide like no other. They need us, they depend on us, and we need them too. Please make decisions with those things in mind. Lastly, I just need to thank and commend Mrs. Kinder for the job that she is doing and has done. To use some of your words, Rachel, our members hear you, see you, and thank you for the calm that you have brought to us during this time. Excuse me. You and I have grown quite close in the short period of time, even more so due to the circumstances. And I personally thank you, appreciate you, and I'm very optimistic about where we are headed, seeing your leadership at its best so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee, thank you very much for your comments.
Renee, thank you. They're very true comments, very well spoken, and very true. These teachers are working extra hours, and I thank you for telling us what everybody is doing, because that's what we need to hear. I appreciate it.
I too thank you, Renee. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I know that teachers have told me that they are working at least 3 times harder grading, 3 times harder planning than they do when they're not doing e-learning or R-learning. So I know that those hours are tough for teachers and for staff that are working with students, and I commend them as well.
Moving down the agenda, any questions from the public on actions we have taken this evening? Hearing none, seeing none. Any announcements by the board? Online?
I do. I want to say congratulations to the 2020 graduates. I know it's not exactly what you thought it would be, but make the best of it and make the best of the rest of your lives. And remember where you're from, and remember where you came from, and remember VVSD. Thank you to all of the retirees. Same for you. We know that, the parties, a lot of them had to be postponed or canceled, but we're all so happy for all you've done for all of our students and our community. Enjoy the next phase of your lives. I hope that VVSD has prepared all of the students for the next phase as much as possible, and I know that they have. Please keep in touch with us and let us know how all of this is going for you in the future. We would love to hear from you and all of the great things you're doing. To the graduates of RHS, where I went and I taught, please feel free to join the RHS alumni site on Facebook. It's called Lockport West Romeoville High School, and it's a Facebook page, and it's for the alumni, to help you keep in touch and to let all of the student body at RHS know, and the past graduates from day one, when it was called Lockport West, how things are going, and to keep in touch that way. Enjoy your summer, and please stay healthy and stay strong, and God bless.
Anyone else online?
Yes, I just want to take this opportunity to thank, as Renee has said about Assistant Superintendent Kinder, following in some big footsteps, but she's doing a fantastic job according to what we hear and what we're seeing. So we want to thank God for her and the team. We know that she's not doing it alone. As she said, she knows that she's got staff and those that are backing them. So we just thank God for everybody. I have a friend that says everybody's body. So that's everybody that have assisted during this time. May God continue to bless this district and Dr. Mitchum in his retirement, knowing that he left some big footprints, and Superintendent Kinder is going to follow great well, and just thank God for each and every one of you, this Valley View family. May God continue to bless you and keep you all safe in Jesus' name.
Anyone else? Vic, anything?
I just want to say, Dr. Mitchum, thank you for what you've done for this community and the schools. I would appreciate that and hope you enjoy your retirement. On another note, Irene King has a food pantry, and it is Thursday. They're up to 87 families that they're feeding out of that food pantry, and it started with about 50. So it actually is growing a little bit. So that's all I have.
Thank you. So there's been a lot of discussion about what the high school graduations are going to do. Mr. Pascavage and Mr. Kinder are both here today. They're going to be sending out information Tuesday, tomorrow, finalizing the plans. We ask all families, please adhere to those plans. It's not going to be your typical graduation, which even in the best of situations takes a couple hours or 3 hours, whatever it is. Nobody on the board, as I made some comments for this graduation ceremony, one of the things I said is the best part of being on the school board is watching the kids come across the stage and seeing their smiling faces and seeing the future of our community and our country walk across that stage, and knowing the potential that's out there for those students. And that's really the only time you really get, it's like, man, this is really, really cool, watching these kids and just seeing the glint in their eye and the smile on their faces. We're going to try and do something that will be, I don't know if it'll be unique, but hopefully it'll be special. This is not anything that anybody on the board or administration or building principals, anybody wanted to have happen, but it is what we need to do to maintain a certain amount of safety, and that is going to be first and foremost in anybody's minds, and that includes the families that are going to be driving by in cars and what have you. But we hope that the kids from the class of 2020 will take something away from it that's very positive, and maybe someday in the future we'll be able to do something for them that's extra special as well. So I really do appreciate the service on everybody on this board, and this is a tough time. It really, really is. Those of us who I've got a son at home who's like a caged animal. He comes downstairs, he walks around, and it makes it even worse when it's raining like it has been the last few days. But I think any parent, I've heard all kinds of comments about how hard it is, and they didn't realize what their teachers do, and all those types of things. Well, this is kind of a time that everybody's refocusing. So please continue to do that. Maintain your vigilance. Be safe. Again, congratulations to our retirees. Congratulations to our graduates. Everybody has tried to do the right things. In my opinion, I haven't seen anybody going off, in some other tangents or directions. And this is what we need to continue to do. It's not going to be an easy summer. It's not going to be, hopefully it'll be a lot easier fall. Maybe they'll get things opened back up in an appropriate fashion and time like we normally do. But if not, we'll figure a way to deal with it. And that's what you do. And the comments today about we do the very minimal to impact classrooms. I have been on this board for 13 or 14 years now, and every question that was ever asked when it ever came to a budget cut or a nickel or a dime or a spend or a this or a that was, where is the places that it least impacts students and most keeps our financial investments and all of our emotional investments in the classrooms to help the students, help support our teachers, and in the buildings themselves. So I really, truly do believe that. And if somebody wants to point me in a direction that we've done something otherwise, I'd be happy to have that conversation. And again, I want to thank all my fellow board members, the time that's being put in, the questions that be asked, the guys who are working on this finance stuff. This tax warrant thing is nothing simple, but it is simple, but it's not an easy thing to do. We're borrowing against our future revenues. People do it all the time in the business world, but we have not had to do that. And we've been very fortunate. We have good stewards, I think, on the board and behind the scenes managing our finances, and we've done a good job. We also have community leaders that have helped set that up because we're not upside down with our residential versus our commercial real estate where most of our taxes come from. I wasn't here for the part where the state of Illinois owes us $5.5 million, Gary. something along those lines, but.
Yeah, the one comment, we did receive right after the April 30th close that they did pay the one categorical, so we're about half of that.
So that being said, the Illinois General Assembly is coming back to Springfield on Wednesday. They may get done in 3 days. They may come back next week. Those folks are challenged with some monumental problems too. The state of Illinois is financially taking a huge hit. We're talking about billions of dollars in lost income. The income tax alone from the last 3 months, last 2.5 months, is over $2 billion. The state of Illinois has a $42 or $43 billion budget. So keep working that through the process, and if the things don't get righted, they may be $10 billion in debt. That's 25% of their budget. Nobody can operate under those circumstances, particularly with the requirements that they have and the burdens that they have to face. So I don't envy any of our General Assembly members. If you know one, tell them good luck, because it's going to be a tough week, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions in the next 4 or 5 days. And, you know, as we said, Member Campbell said, and I think Member Gilbo, God bless everybody, because hang on, because we're just getting there. We're just getting started on this thing. It's been tough, but I think we'll get through it together. And we have a great community in Valley View, and I think if we all get in the canoe and row in the right direction, we'll get there together. So thank you. It's my comments for the evening. Any comments by the administration?
I'll be brief also. I just want to acknowledge the recognition of Dr. Mitchum, and I look forward to the time when we can appropriately celebrate the legacy that he's created in the Early Childhood Center that will live far beyond any of our careers for our littlest learners, and will have an impact far greater than we can ever measure. To Renee Calabrese, our union president who spoke this evening, I thank you for your kind words, and most importantly, I thank you for your leadership and partnership. You are fierce, you are strong in your leadership, and I am confident that together we continue to ensure that we listen to the voice of all of our staff, that we partner together, and that we continue to grow. We don't know what the future is going to bring us, but I can tell you that together with the right mindset and the readiness and the planning and the partnership, we can be ready for whatever comes our way. And most importantly, we're going to be ready for our kids and whatever they need. To our families and our students who have done an incredible job of adapting, just as our staff have, you have been thrown a tremendous curveball, and we are incredibly grateful to all of our families, parents, other family members, students, and staff who have done everything within your power to adapt, and our community partners have come alongside of us. Everything that Renee said about our staff is true, and I would echo all of it if I had the time. They are doing an incredible job, and they continue every day to grow in this. The end of the year, as I said to our staff in an email communication today, is very bittersweet. In a sense, there's a sigh of relief, just as parents are feeling after that last day, May 26th, when you no longer have to log in for student attendance or make sure your students are completing their work, unless they're in summer school or ESY. So there's a sigh of relief, but there's also a sense of sadness and a sense of loss for what we look forward to. Many for our parents who look forward to 13 years to seeing their students walk across the stage. And as President Quigley said, our principals and their teams are working very hard to ensure that our students have as much recognition and as special of a moment as possible given these circumstances, and we are fully committed to everything that we can to recognize them. And to our retirees, we won't get to see you in person just now to see you off, but we thank you for your years of dedicated service of heart and skill and labor. You have left an immeasurable impact on our district. And as I mentioned, with the uncertainty of fall, and we don't know what that brings us, we will be prepared for whatever comes our way. We are going to be moving into planning mode and using survey from students, parents, and staff to gather feedback and have collaborative planning teams to ensure that we have contingency plans in place for no matter what the circumstances are. You can expect that we will be in communication with you throughout the summer in readiness for the fall of whenever that may be. And what I can assure you first and foremost is that the safety and the well-being of our students and staff will remain our priority, and that with all the resources that we have, we will do everything possible to support our kids and to support our staff to that end. So thank you and for the board for your ongoing partnership. I am just extremely grateful for the entire Valley View community, and we will continue to move forward together, and onward we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any announcements by the public? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, thanks.
Have a good one.